In this video, we'll discuss about the exam tips. So, what are going to be the key factors while giving the exam? So, this certification exam, the AWS Certified Solution Architect, is basically for people who are applying for architect role. So, it will give a overview of how the infrastructure, how the AWS, how the different services of AWS runs, and what is how the coupling is done between different services in AWS. So, as mentioned here, is like you need to identify and gather requirements from your client, from the infrastructure engineer, and based on that you have to give solution from AWS point of view. And in doing so you have to provide some architectural guidance to the people who are planning to deploy their infrastructure in cloud. So the AWS Certified Solution Architect Associate exam is intended for individuals who perform a solution architect role. This exam validates an examinee's ability to identify and gather requirements in order to define a solution to be built using architecture best practices. It will also provide guidance on architectural best practices to developers and system administrators throughout the life cycle of the project. The knowledge and skill required at this level should include all of the following areas and objective components. The knowledge level can be defined as including the majority of the following skills or qualities. So the first of all is AWS knowledge. So how much you are aware about the services of AWS, the compute technology, the networking, messaging, queuing, database, VPC, everything. Like you have to be have a knowledge of all the components and services of AWS. So it will require a hands-on experience using compute, networking, storage, and database AWS services. And you should be having some professional experience architecting large-scale distributed systems, and you should be understanding the elasticity and scalability concepts. Apart from that, you should be understanding the AWS global infrastructure. So this global infrastructure part is very much critical because where you are deploying your resources in which region will define how much latency can be incurred in your infrastructure. So if you are staying India, maybe in Mumbai, and you are deploying your resource in somewhere around California or North Virginia, it will be giving some latency as compared to the resources in Mumbai. So we have to consider all these things while deploying our resources. And apart from that, we have to just check the cost factor as well, because in some region the cost of the infrastructure is really high or is marginally above than some other regions, that because of the um, taxes that the government applies there. So we have to just take care of that as well. So for example, if you're deploying a resource in Mumbai or in US or in North in somewhere else, South Pacific, Asia Pacific region, and if you're deploying a resource in Japan, Tokyo region, so the Tokyo region will be a bit costlier, it will be a bit expensive because the taxes that the government implies there is a bit higher than other regions. So you have to consider that. That will be huge benefit going forward. And this is the responsibility of the design team, the architect, to inculcate all these things while deploying the infrastructure. So apart from that, understanding the network technology as they relate to AWS. So you should be very good in networking. I would say just a basic IP addressing concept will be required for handling tasks in AWS network. A good understanding of all security features and tools that AWS provides and how they relate to traditional services. So there is some link between traditional services and the services in cloud. So you should be having a brief idea how the things work in on-premise infrastructure, so that when you deploy your resources in cloud, you will be having the basic idea of the infrastructure, and you just have to work on AWS, how the AWS utilizes those resources. So that's all in that category. Apart from that, a strong understanding of client interfaces to the AWS platform is required. So how the client is going to access the resources in AWS platform, that is also going to be a very crucial part in understanding the infrastructure. And the hands-on experience with AWS deployment and management services. So hands-on is very much required, and that is why the AWS is providing 750 hours of free tier usage. So when you create your free tier account, you'll be getting 750 hours of free usage to certain free AMIs. So you can utilize those things to have a good idea of AWS infrastructure, and it's really good. So that will help you in understanding the AWS services. Apart from that, like, it requires excellent understanding of typical multi-tier architectures like web server, caching, application servers, load balancers, and storage. So all these technologies we have to be aware of, and how they work together. This should be our prime focus. Apart from that, we should have understanding of RDBMS, Relational Database Management System, and NoSQL, and some other services like message queuing, and enterprise service bus, and familiarity with loose coupling and stateless systems, that will also be providing a big help in understanding this infrastructure. And you have to be aware of different consistency models in distributed system, content delivery network, that's very critical, that's very good topic, and you will definitely get some questions on content delivery network in solution architect exam. They may ask you what is caching and what will be the origin server and how it will work. So all these things you have to be aware of while giving the examination. Apart from that, some hands-on experience with core LAN WAN network technologies, experience with route tables, access control lists, firewall, NAT, HTTP, DNS, IP, and OSI network. So all these things will be very beneficial in understanding the AWS services infrastructure. Knowledge of RESTful web services, XML, JSON, familiarity with the software development cycle, work experience with information and application security concepts, mechanisms and tools, awareness of end using computing and collaborative technologies. So these things are very much available in AWS. You can have your database, you can have your EC2 instances. EC2 instances will be can be of Windows, Linux, some other flavor of Linux, and you can also upload your customized AMI, customized images of some particular OS which is not available in AWS marketplace. So that is also there. You can even create your image and you can sell it over marketplace to other users. So that option is also there. So it's a quite equipped service, equipped cloud platform, AWS. So you will get all the necessary things to run your infrastructure. Also, when you create a multi-tier infrastructure, like when you are creating a web server and you are putting some databases and application servers. So that is going to be a very critical part, because um, when you create a multi-tier infrastructure, you have to take care of the subnets, the kind of subnet you're going to use for each type of servers. So suppose you are using a web server, so it should, the web servers are usually public facing. So, and users should hit the URL of the web server to access the websites. The web server should be placed in public subnet. However, when you are talking about database servers, so those database servers should be kept in private subnet. We don't need to expose them to the outer world, to public infrastructure, public environment, because we want to protect our database. So these things we have to keep in mind while creating the infrastructure in AWS. So similarly, if we have application servers, we can put them either in public subnet or private subnet, depending on our need. And this need to be decided by the architect of the infrastructure. So we have to learn these services and their practical scenarios as well, so that we can build a better infrastructure. So thank you for listening.